We know that vocabulary is important. If you're learning the language, it's not a question of should I learn vocabulary? It's a question of how you should learn vocabulary. While the methods out there are a dime a dozen, there are only a couple that are really worth your time. And if you're learning a language as an adult, as someone who's working, doing other things, your time's valuable. You gotta protect that stuff. Like the Spartans from the movie with the Spartans. Is it 300? You gotta protect it like Thermopylae. You gotta protect your time like Thermopylae. So you can't let methods that don't work steal your time. That's not good. Don't do that. Short disclaimer, if you use one of these methods and they work for you, keep doing it. I don't want to keep you from things that you enjoy. But I would ask you to try out one of the things that I suggest, because it might be a more effective use of your time, and it could even help with the thing that you're already wanting to keep doing. Let's start with a oldie but a goodie. It's a single word paper review card, like these. I got a lot of them. Oh God. Oh wow. I got the dog tags to prove my time in combat, brother. The proof is in the pudding, and the pudding is the vocabulary of Caesar and Virgil. Just like 1,000 flashcards on Latin. Oh, Lord, this makes me sad. So the problem with these is that there's a lot of them. This is unwieldy. This is ungodly. Every paper flashcard you make over like the number of 20 makes a baby angel cry. Stop that. Also, like, what's on it? I think they do have like gender, and yeah, they have gender, because sorry liberals, Latin is gendered, but it does have a neuter gender, so sorry conservatives. It does have a third gender that is just neither male nor female. Yes, come in. You're gonna. It's a whole setup.
It's a whole setup.
It's a whole setup.
Dang. Where did you get the green light?
I stole it. We're back. Oh, lordy. What was I saying? I was saying that I've done my time. I've done my time with these. These suckers aren't great. They got one word on the back with a translation. That doesn't tell me anything about how it's used in a sentence, how it fits in with the larger, like what's the word order? How does that go? And teachers might tell you, vocabulary and grammar are two very different things. You gotta learn them separately. I say phooey. I say don't do that. I say learn them at the same time, instead of learning them through little words like rericus, which means the rest of. Use that in a sentence, like this. So I'm showing my hand pretty early here. I'm not a fan of one word on the front with the translation on the back. That's just not an effective use of your time. You can learn both at the same time through putting sentences instead of just words. A full, complete thought transmitted by a native speaker. And then you can see from that what words go along with it, where is it usually placed in a sentence. It brings you that much further, that much faster in learning the language. That's cool. A step up from this monstrosity is Quizlet. You can make a Quizlet with all these things. First of all, you'll make the environment happier. You're not using that paper, but also it's just easier to interact with. You could have 1,000 flashcards on your computer a whole lot easier than 1,000 flashcards on this. Look how thick this ring. Look at that. Oh my Lord. It still has the problem with content. You have to be sure that you're putting the right things on there. But it also has the secret problem of it's not the best way to review. You're still working off of that feeling of, ooh, do I know this? Do I not know this? There's no clear rules to how much you're supposed to review something. And there are rules out there, which we'll get into in a hot second, but it doesn't have those on Quizlet. So, better, but not best. So what about these cool language games? They got little green things when you're doing good, little red things when you're doing bad. Oh, that's so naughty. And to top it off, it's all taught to you by a sexy little bird. I said it. You know it's true. But is this good for you? No, this isn't good for you. Does your mother know you use Duolingo? Can you look your father in the eye and tell them that you're using Duolingo and not like be sad for yourself? I've been pretty vocal about my disdain for Duolingo as a program for learning, but you know, it doesn't hurt to say it again. It's not the best thing out there for you. If you're curious, you can see my video on that. But for the context of what we're talking about here with learning vocabulary, it's unstructured. The things that you learn, yeah, you don't choose what they are. They may or may not be relevant to you, but it's the same thing with the classroom. You got to learn what you gotta learn. Because, why? You're just told to learn it. My third reason is I don't like them, and you can't make me like them. We also have the option of natural conversation. This is the Benny Lewis way of, I look at a phrase book and then I throw it away. I think he's Irish or something. I look at the phrase book and I throw it away. Oh man, that's a hate crime, I think. Just start a natural conversation. I talk with people. That's good for you. Again, if it works for you, do it. But for normal people, that's not exactly accessible. People who do that, they like travel the world. I'm gonna live in Portugal for a month and learn Portuguese. From an immersion standpoint, that's a great thing to do, but it's a lot of pressure to learn that way. If you don't know what's being said to you, and then you're expected to come back with a response, what do? I know what you do, you fail. You do badly. You feel bad about yourself. It takes a lot of courage. Courage is a good thing at certain points, but at this like learning stage, it's unnecessary courage because there's better things out there. It's better than Duolingo. It's just a lot of pressure and it's not very accessible, and beginners would do well with a different way of doing it. So Benny Lewis, eat your heart out. Good old-fashioned immersion. Watching a movie, listening to a podcast, your music, an audiobook, reading, all that stuff where you can just experience language. That's a great way to be introduced to vocabulary, I would say. If it's something you're interested in, it's relevant to you. You're also hearing them in their natural context. You're hearing how they're used in a sentence. You're hearing how they're being used by people, real native speakers of the language. That's always optimal for your immersion, is native media. Can't ask someone to talk to you all day, and that takes a lot to find people to just be surrounded by conversation all day, but you could easily spend the entire day listening to conversations through the mountains of content that are out there on the internet. And you don't, unlike natural conversation, you don't have to respond. You can just exist. But it loses out on the structured part. It's not a structured way of learning the language, unfortunately. Just be going off of vibes, I guess. I don't know how you would review vocabulary. In some, it's a great way to be introduced to vocabulary, because if you're reviewing things that are important to you, then you come across vocab that's important to you. But it's not the best way to review it and commit it to memory. Now, we've reached the end here. This is my preferred method. This is the way you do it. This is the good stuff here. So let's take what we've learned so far and then put it all into one method. If sentences are better than words, let's focus on sentences. Let's review sentences instead. Full, complete thoughts that people transmit to one another. It can be things that you've heard. It can be things that you've read. It can be captions to a video that you watched on YouTube. Let's take those snippets. So how do we put structure around these? Best structure you can put around your reviews is one that uses spaced repetition. The basic thought behind spaced repetition is that there are patterns behind how we remember things, where you can review it enough times such that you actually memorize it, you remember it, but not so many times that it beleaguers the point, where you're reviewing things that you already know. And there are programs centered around this. There's an analog way if you are a steadfast paper pen user called the Gold Book method. You can look it up. I don't use it, but it's spaced repetition. It's better than nothing. If you're a die-hard paper flashcard fan, first of all, you make me sad and a little nauseous. But there's an option for you with spaced repetition. It's not as exact as a computer method is, but if you're not gonna do nothing else, you can do that. It's called the Lightner system. Look it up. L-E-I-L. I'll put it there. It's a thing. I'll put it somewhere. Lightner system. The one that I would recommend and that I use is a computer program called Anki. Anki is free, open source to everyone. If you want to use the iPhone app for it, that's the only place you'll pay, but it has a free Android version that's made by the community, and then a free web version with cloud syncing and all that stuff. It's really cool, very powerful. The system that it uses, it's like effective at 90-something%. So like 90-something% of the things that you learn through Anki, you're gonna memorize. You're gonna remember. So what are grand conclusions here? You gotta review vocabulary. The main advantage of being an adult and not a silly little baby is that you can use some review methods to remember things faster. You're not entirely reliant upon an immersion environment. But the ways that you can go wrong is if you just put single words that are out of context and don't show you anything. So use sentences instead when you can. And lastly, look at the structure around your studying. There are much more effective ways than just going off of vibes. There's spaced repetition, which can show you things as many times for you to learn it, but not so many times that you're just beating a dead horse. If you like this video, like it. If you like what I do, what I'm trying to do here, subscribe to see more. I'm gonna put another video out so soon. So you won't even know. It's gonna be so soon. And until next time, I'll see you then. No, I'm not against fun. I'm a pretty fun. You could call me a mushroom because I think I'm a pretty fun guy. But